I am going to be making this orca. It's a Judy Gale Roberts pattern, and it comes, when you buy the pattern, it comes with this butterfly pattern too, so it's like 2 patterns in one. But I'm just gonna focus on this orca because I have a friend that asked me if I could make him an orca. So that's what I'm gonna do. Alrighty. So I made copies of the pattern and cut out the paper pieces. It takes a few copies because you want to cut out each piece and you end up cutting into a neighboring piece when you do that, so multiple copies are needed. And I put the paper pieces with the woods that they were going to be glued to. Then I used 3M77 spray adhesive, spraying it on each piece and then putting the piece onto the wood. And watching for the grain direction. Judy's patterns have recommended grain direction arrows on them, which makes it pretty easy to place them. This pattern only has 3 different colors, well, kind of 4, including the catch light, so selecting wood and gluing the paper pattern went pretty fast. I'm using aspen for the white, wenge for the dark, and ebony for the eye, and holly for the catch light. Then I started cutting out the pieces using a number 5 modified geometry blade on my Hegner scroll saw. Aspen is pretty easy wood to saw. The dust is weird though. The best description for it that I can come up with is that it is like feathery. Anybody else that's cut aspen, let me know what you think of it. And wenge is splintery and dense. It is one of the more difficult woods to cut, in my opinion. I've seen different colors of wenge, and mine here is black with brown stripes. I really like it. And finally, ebony, which is the most difficult wood to cut, in my opinion. To me, it feels waxy, but is also really, really smooth and super, super black, and it makes for great eyes. I have also seen different kinds of ebony, and this one right here I have is really, 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 really black. And here are all of the pieces. I used a brush to put some mineral spirits on the paper, and after a few minutes the paper came right off. I've noticed some sticky glue residue remains when I do this, so this time, after removing the paper, I took a rag and just wiped off all that residue. Then I cut some sanding shims with my little bandsaw. These are just scrap pieces of thin plywood that will be used for keeping the pieces together while I sand. 1 piece for the white and body section on the back half, and 1 piece for the white and body section on the front part. I sanded the fuzzies of those just to help prevent slivers, but I always seem to get some anyway. But that's how it goes working with wood, apparently. Then I used thin double-sided tape to attach that sanding shim to the area and the pieces I wanted to sand together. I removed the white film with the X-Acto knife. I saw Judy do that in one of her teaching videos, and it seems to be the easiest way. Then I placed those shims in their area, reinforcing with more tape if needed. And I marked with a pencil some areas I wanted to make sure and pay special attention to because the shaping was going to be tricky in those spots. And I put a brand new 100 grit sandpaper onto my drum and started shaping away. The shims hold those pieces together really well, and I was able to shape them all together. I checked to see how even things were sanding, and I could see it wasn't even at all. Sanding from the side, I could make sure to even up the pieces. This wenge made a lot of dark sawdust. Here's my headgear all dusted up. I'll speed this up for you a bit. Once I had things more even in thickness, then I worked on the length to make sure it was all smooth, as if all the pieces were all one. When I had that section shaped to where I liked it, then I removed the shims. I used a painting knife scraper. I've always called this thing a putty knife, but I guess it's not. It's a painting knife scraper. Anyway, I think a putty knife would work too. A little bit of the tape stuck onto the orca, so I worked at removing that too. Then I reassembled the orca and marked where I needed to shape the pectoral fin. Then I marked and shaped the dorsal fin. Once I had the major shaping done, then I put it all together and took a look. Next was to focus on the tail fins. I used 150 and 220 grit to shape and smooth it. Next I used the flex drum sander with 220 grit. I went over all of the pieces individually, making sure to take out any sanding marks. And I went over everything with 220 sheet sandpaper. I really like this part because you could smooth away anything that was missed by the sander and also round off any sharp edges, and it's just satisfying. Then I took a picture and sent it to the person who I'm making this for, asking if he wanted the dorsal fin to be bigger. He replied it was good to go. Next, I took a large piece of newsprint and I sprayed it with craft adhesive spray. I am making my backerboard template. Then I put the Orca onto the sticky paper and traced around it with a mechanical pencil. You have to make sure the pencil marks the paper because the sticky glue can keep it from doing that, so you just have to go over it a few times. Then I removed the Orca from the paper. Next, I drew a line just within the tracing line, and this will be my cut line. Then I removed the excess newsprint and I attached the template to the backer material, which I am using hardboard for this time. And I also used the chop saw to get rid of all the excess hardboard. Okay, before I cut this out, I am just going to put some pickling white on the white part of the Orca. So I'm just going to move everything else over here for now. Move this away. And before I put the pickling white on it, I'm going to clean these pieces with some mineral spirits just to get them all nice and clean. And while those are drying, I'm going to go cut out the backer. I am using the same number 5 blade I used before. I'm sure there is probably a better suited blade size for this, but this works just fine for me. So I followed that inside line, which would make the backer fit just inside the Orca. And to remove the paper, I used mineral spirits again to dissolve up that glue so the paper comes off. I was a little impatient and didn't let the mineral spirits work all the way, and some of the paper stayed stuck on this backer. But with a little more mineral spirits on those spots, it came off all the way. And now the pieces were all dry after being cleansed with the mineral spirits. Wow, I use mineral spirits a lot. Anyway, these were ready for some pickling. Look at that. It's like, looks brown, but it's pickling white. There it is. So a friend of mine was asking me about the pickling white on pieces, and I was telling her about it, and so she looked it up, and she talked to some representative or something, and found out that there's actually 3 different kinds. And after she said that, I went and looked, and I had bought another one, and it was different than this one. This one here, and this is the one I usually use. So I saw this in the store, it said pickling white, and so I got that thinking it was the same as this. So anyway, there's a 3rd kind even. And I guess they have different purposes, but what I read about this one is you put it on and then you wipe it off in 2 to 5 minutes. And this one you put it on and then you wipe it off with mineral spirits on your rag. And I didn't do that before when I used this. So yeah, I guess it's just a little bit, I don't know why, but it's a little bit different. And then the 3rd one is even more different. And I think one they took off the market, which might be the one that I don't have. I don't know. Anyway, when you're looking at pickling something, just there's more than one with Old Masters, just to let you know. Let's just put this on. Put it on pretty thick, just on the 3 sides. So I wiped the pickling stain on the pieces, waited a few minutes, and then wiped them off. So just for fun, I am going to put a piece of aspen that hasn't been stained or anything with these other ones that have been stained so that we can compare how it looks after the stain sits on it for a while. And right now, they're the same color. So that'll be interesting to see. Yay! Alrighty, I'm going to put a little catch light in this eyeball. It's just sitting in here. So I'm going to just use this little drill thing. And it took a little work to get that small hole drilled in there, but this little thumb screwdriver is easy to handle for small spots like this. Then I sharpened a piece of holly in the pencil sharpener and put a little quick and thick glue on it and put it into the hole in the ebony. Okay, this has been sitting out all night and there's a little bit difference in color, but not much. So I'm going to add another coat. So I put more on each piece, wiping it off after a few minutes. Next I added a verse and my name to the back with my laser. I put Psalm 96:11 through 13 using the Names of God version of the Bible. It says, "Let the heavens rejoice and the earth be glad. Let the sea and everything in it roar like thunder. Let the fields and everything in them rejoice. That all the trees in the forest will sing joyfully in Yahweh's presence because he is coming. He is coming to judge the earth. He will judge the world with righteousness and its people with his truth." I picked that verse because it talks about let the sea and everything in it roar like thunder, and that would be the orca. Woo! I can't imagine the orca roaring though. Cool. Yay! Alrighty, I'm going to finish up the eye. Let's just cut that off and make it look like an eye. So I cut that off real quick like and then sanded it with the big sander with a 100 grit and smoothed it with a 220 grit on the small sander. Then I hand sanded it just to smooth those sides a little bit more, and I tried it in. I'm going to put some polyurethane gel clear satin from Old Masters on there. Can you see it? What it is? Polyurethane Old Masters. Usually has a little film on top. Ooh, look at that film. Ooh. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. And this you also wipe on and then wipe off. So I'm going to wipe it on. Not on the back side. Just on the sides and on the top. Ooh, look at that. Woo! Wow. Doesn't that look pretty? Wow. Wenge. Nice. Nice stuff. I wiped this on all of the pieces using a brush to get into the nooks and crannies. And then wipe them all off until they were dry to the touch. Well, now it's been another day drying and I can see a difference with it now. Definitely can see the white on there. Yeah. Compared to that. So cool. Alrighty. Okay, I gathered up all the pieces and I haven't put it together since it has a finish on it. So let's just do that. And I put it all on the backer to make sure there were no overhangs of the backer. Then slid it all off and started gluing the pieces on. I used Titebond Quick and Thick with dabs of glue all over the piece. I put it on the backer and then I put some of the pieces back on, making sure it was all sitting on the backer correctly. Then I let that first piece set up. And then I remembered I had gotten a Babe Bot for just my Quick and Thick. I had cut the tip down too far and it was coming out heavy, so after this first piece I changed out the tip and I cut it just slightly, and that was much better. And I glued on the rest of the pieces. I used a small brush to get the glue onto the sides of the hole where the eye goes. I also used a little piece of paper towel and stuffed it down in the eye hole to act as a shim or riser just to lift the eye a little bit. Then I glued the eye in place. And I used some Krylon Triple Thick, just spraying a little into the lid and using a brush to dab it onto the eye to give it some extra shine. Then I kind of figured out where I needed to put the hanger. It's about like there. Dangling the piece by a few fingers until it is hanging like you want it really works well for figuring out where to put the hanger. For me, anyway. So I marked it and drilled 2 small pilot holes. Someone said something about me drilling on my lap like this, and when I watched the footage, it does look like a dangerous move, but I'm only drilling a tiny amount into the backer, and if I went all the way through, it would ruin the project, so I'm super careful not to go through. However, I suppose I shouldn't do it this way anymore, or at least have something protecting me from the drill bit. I'll try to do that next time. I used a piece of wire and wrapped it around each of the screws, then curled the ends of the wire to keep them from poking. The Orca's all finished! Woo! And I put my signature on the back also along with the verse. And this will be my first project to put on the wall. Yay! So what can I say about this project that I haven't already said? Well, it is a Judy Gale Roberts pattern, and it's a pattern from a long time ago. And hi, Wally. Here is the paper that has it. It came with a butterfly too. And let's see, 1989, that's the date of the pattern. And it's I-14, Orca and butterfly. So there it is. There's the Orca anyway. Come here, buddies. Oh, Wally. Hi, buddy. So the wenge, or wenge, I'm sticking with wenge. The wenge, I love the grain on the wenge, and it's just so pretty. And the black, yeah, I love it. And then the aspen, and it got a little bit of a white boost with that pickling. And then the eyes ebony, and gave it a little bit of shine with that, what's that called? This stuff, the clear glaze, triple thick stuff. Anywho, well, I guess that's it. Right, Wally? So thanks for joining me, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye.